The Dental Brief is brought to you by Omni Premier Marketing and the amazing guests who bring wisdom and advice that you can put to use to take your business and practices to the next level. Find us on Facebook and join the conversation. Get ready to grow because we are kicking off the next episode in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Brief. I'm excited for today's guest. Today's subject is going to be a great episode. Everyone, welcome Michaela Hampton to the program. Michaela, say hello to everyone.
Hello.
So glad to have you here. It's going to be, like I said, a fun time. Now, you're with Go2 Billing. Website is billing.online. So I want people to check out the website. Tell us, Michaela, how'd you get involved in dentistry? How'd you get in this industry?
Okay, yeah, I started when I was 18 years old. I started as a dental assistant, and then I earned my RDA in California. And I worked for a doctor, an owner doctor, and I was very, very lucky to work for him. Right off the bat, he was just a great leader. And so he was like, "Hey, Michaela, you're more of a front office girl instead of a back office girl because, I want you to kind of be the face of the practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you to Florida for a year. I'm going to put you through a rigorous sales and communication course and a self-integrity course." And so very early on, I was introduced to a community that was a very different world than I had ever been in. From there, I was able to start managing. So I was very young at the time, and I remember I even stuttered when I spoke to people. But I was really fortunate again to work for a doctor that just got it. He just got that people were so big in your dental office. He was all about people over profits, it was a very different time then. So this was 19 years ago. But
Sure.
through my 19 years, I was very fortunate to work with different offices, and some good, some not so great. And so what I found in that was leadership, and my skill set grew. And as far as challenges and failures came, I learned from those. And so yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with MGE, Fortune Management, Janice Hurley.
So you're in practices, you spend quite a bit of practices, you work with some of the biggest names in dental, helping dentists out there, kind of touching base a little bit on what you said as far as, people over profits. I think right now that with hiring is a problem, I think we have people ghosting. And I think the more negative it seems to get as far as hiring is concerned, the more likely we are to think that we need to think profits first and people second, right? And then it kind of creates this really horrible negative feedback loop. So that's certainly a problem. I'm glad you
Culture.
brought that up. So
Mhm.
how'd you make the transition into Go2 Billing, right? So how'd you end up in this very specified niche in helping doctors?
Frustration is actually how I how I ended up here as an operations manager and then a regional manager. I grew to really understand the challenges that the doctors were facing at the time. I knew that production is one thing. Doctors, they hone in on production. And
Sure.
it is great. And yes, it feeds into the practice health. However, collections, I mean, if you're producing but not collecting, then it defeats the purpose of how much you produce. So I knew that I saw a need in the field and that I could fulfill that need better than anyone else, I thought, because I'm passionate and I have a skill set and I wanted to be able to share that with other people and help these dentists out that work so hard for their money. And then, you have insurance companies that don't want to pay on claims, and then you have workers that are too stressed out because they're answering phones, they're checking in, they're checking out. They're so stressed. And so I really saw it as a separate challenge with a separate solution. And if I had the ability to fulfill my passion through that, I knew that I could be the best at what I did because it was no longer a job.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense to me.
I also saw that in a lot of my experiences, the culture was broken. So,
Mm.
if a team member didn't meet their job, they would just throw them out. So they had high turnover. So
Right.
what I was seeing in the dental practices a lot of the time was a failure in communication and setting those expectations for your members or your teammates, and seeing them rise. So the dentists or the managers, they weren't setting that clear, concise expectation and then seeing what their team could do. It was, we have the best ideas, and and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. You want to
Right.
surround yourself by people that are smarter than you are.
Sure.
And Steve Jobs said it best. He said, you don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. So autonomy is really big in what I do in my consulting side of this as well.
Sure.
Just teaching culture and instilling that.
Yep. So, Michaela, tell me, in your position now, and the dentist that you're talking to, what are a couple of the big problems that they're having, and you kind of see this happening right now consistently over and over and over again?
It's culture. Like, one of the big things that I'm seeing is that dentists, when you're working in the practice, it's almost
Sure.
impossible to work on the practice.
Mm,
So it's not necessarily their fault. They just can't find the right help. Um, and so what I'm finding is the less and less that they build culture, the more and more people leave, good people.
sure.
So by culture, I mean getting team buy-in, showing up and actually caring about them. How was your weekend? What's going on with your family? More than just making them feel like a dollar sign to you or that this
Right.
is just a job.
Yep. So, how do you
Yeah.
fix that? What's a quick fix? What are
So,
some tricks that you've seen work and practices in your travels that can change culture instantly?
yeah, I would say taking that team out, take them out of that atmosphere, get to know them as people, have dinner with them and their families. Um, Also, set those expectations and set them clearly. Get their buy-in, and by that I mean share your goals. Open book management. Jack Stack has a great book on that, and by that he says share your goals, share your results. Don't be afraid of sharing those numbers with your team because they want to help you get to where you need to go. And so with that said, I also think it has a lot to do with time. So the number two thing that I see in dental offices, or challenges that I see, is they don't have a lot of time. So hire hire somebody to do your billing and your insurance verifications. Give your team that time to train on how to treatment plan, how to educate your patients, and how to schedule them back. And the number three thing I see is collections. A patient will say, "Hey, I'll pay you later," and your team isn't trained enough to understand that payment, it it feeds into everything else in your practice. So,
Right.
um, and also on the claims end, a lot of times a front office person will just close the claim and not appeal it because they don't have enough time. So yeah, I'd say culture, time, and collections is really big in dentistry right now. Three biggest challenges that I'm seeing.
Yeah. So, tell us this. In as far as claims are concerned and claims getting denied, are you actually seeing claims being denied more now than they were several years ago or less?
That's a great question. I am seeing them be denied more, an
Mm,
increase in denials, and why is that? So a lot of times it can be your processes and your protocols in your dental office. Is your provider, your hygienist, your doctor making great notes? And then putting everything that the insurance needs in those notes, such as, if it's an existing crown, how old was that existing crown, and why are you doing a new crown for this patient? Um, and so a lot of times when you go to appeal, those things are missing. And yeah, I just think that's part of the biggest thing. And then also you're seeing insurance companies ask the strangest questions that they didn't ask 10, 15 years ago. And that's, what type of anesthetic did you use on this patient? Which is really interesting to me because they had never thought to ask that. Any chance they get at denying a claim, they will deny that claim. So you got to
yep.
be armed.
Yep. So let's shift gears here a little bit, talk a little bit about go to billing solutions. So I know on your
Sure.
website, you go to the how it works page, you can quickly see how it works. I see you do free practice analysis. Anyone should take advantage of that, see where you're at, see where you could
Yes.
be. see where, improvements can be made. If you're looking to, right, and I want to encourage the audience, of course, to check out your website, which again is billing.online. Check that out. But let me ask you this, Michaela, if you're looking, if you were to give someone advice, if you're looking to find someone to help you with billing, maximizing receivables in your office, whether that's from insurance or patients, how would you go about vetting an expert, a company of experts to help you in that area?
That's also a great question. So the current client that I have, I asked him, how's it going with your billing? He was a friend of a friend, and he said, it's going great. I think it's going great. I was like, hey, let me get in there. Just make sure your
Sure.
practice is healthy and, they're being accountable. So when I got in there, I was shocked to find that his collections had actually declined the past 3 months. They had actually seen the biggest dip in collections that they had ever had, but it wasn't due to production. Their production was there. It's just
Yep.
that, each month there would be 100,000 missing, 150,000. And so I I put together a practice analysis, just said, here you go. I'm not sure what's happening. So when vetting someone, I would make sure that you're holding them accountable. And also a relationship. When was the last time that entity or that third party met with your office manager, took you guys to lunch, said how is it going? So you really want that soldier on the ground, that connection,
Sure.
because they are a part of your office, but they need to make you feel like they are part of your office, and your manager needs to feel that relationship with them. So that's the number one question I would ask. Like, do you guys actually come on site and visit us at all?
Right.
um, because that's huge. It is, and it's hard hiring outside, an outside company, because the trust isn't automatically there.
Sure.
So you want to make sure that this is a person that you can trust. They're handling your finances, and someone that actually cares about you and your practice, because you're the doctor, you're the owner, and you're feeding families. And I
Right.
really would encourage your third party billing company to understand that you are responsible for a lot of different people and families and collections. That's so important. I remember my client saying, wow, I've got 50,000 in my account because that's all we collected and payroll's coming up. What am I going to do?
Right.
So,
Wow.
and for professional, I felt that, like that. And he has, 300,000 sitting in his over 90 days. That's his money that's just not being worked. So
Right. Yeah. I've heard that the average practice can have up to $500,000 in uncollected revenue out there. It's crazy.
that makes
Right?
me sweat just hearing it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm sure the
I
longer
can't
it sits out
imagine
there,
that.
yeah. And I have to imagine the longer it sits out there, the less chance it's actually going to come in. Is that pretty true?
That's correct, because
Yep.
there's a timely filing limit on lots of insurance companies.
Yep.
So, they're like, well, you didn't get this information to us soon enough. We're just not paying your, $15,000 claim.
So I want to
It
encourage the
is.
audience one more time
It is.
to check out your website, give you guys a look. It's billing.online. Go there. You can see the how it works page. Just place to request a free practice analysis quote. Highly recommend that you do that. Michaela, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.